Welcome to another Helios Sunrise interview, this one with CXC Music Dapp. I met Douglas several months ago and fell in love with his music application. Since then, Douglas, you've joined the Helios Incubator program, and we are still exploring ways to explain this concept in a succinct and relatable way to investors. Douglas has many amazing things, in my view, in this mixing pot, and investors often need to be handheld to understand an investment opportunity with crystal clarity that they need. And so that's a big challenge. So in today's interview, we will explore the big vision for CXC and actually do a demo tour of the music app itself, because I want our viewers to understand how cool this is, just like I did when I had the first demo. Douglas is a remarkable person, many talents, and who knows how far and wide this conversation will go. So by way of introduction, let's start, Douglas, with a bit of a backstory. Why a music Dapp, and how did you originally come up with the idea?
Sure. Thank you, Gav, first of all. And also I'd like to say thank you for all your help in the incubator thus far in helping us to really solve that big problem which you touched on, which is how do we take this sort of big abstract idea, which we are a big abstract idea, and bring it down in a way that people can understand, but not only that, investors can understand. So through working through the pitch deck, I've also learned in general. So I'll start off with the answer to your question of how we got there. So a little bit of my story as far as a web developer. I started when I was 16, just basically went on, learned how to make SQL database, how to build with CSS3, HTML. But I also, at the exact same time, I started recording music, and I was very passionate about both web design and music. I also released my first big web app, myhs.us, and it was the first to use a sort of locational concept. So I emailed the government, and they sent me a database of all of the high schools. So I had a piece of data of all these high schools and basically created something like a hybrid of like a MySpace and maybe like an image forum that use this database to create a unique space for each individual high school. And only like my high school and the high school next door actually used the app, but it was sort of my first touch into a locational based service. So how we got here, after building that, I sort of stepped back and then WordPress sites, but I always had this idea about how we can sort of connect people better. And I always visualized this like a box of information, and like I saw these boxes of information going all over the world, and then I would zoom in and I would look at the tag of that box, and I would say, well, what information is needed to move all this content all around the world, right? So I started to come up with what was basically a licensing platform. That was where we sort of out of. And the licensing platform would say, okay, you have X, Y, and Z permissions, X, Y, and Z restrictions in this geographic area at this time. The upvote system that you see on CXC was actually sort of like a side feature of this licensing platform. But as I started to get feedback for the idea, I realized like, hey, it's not very exciting to do a licensing platform, but we need to create something, create this minimum viable product really fall in love with. So I refocused on that. Then crypto came out, and I started to realize, okay, this isn't just a side feature of a licensing app. This is an entire basis for an economy. So I kept my passion alive, my passion for music, which also came from watching my friends who I think make really good music not be able to break through in the music industry. I combine that with my sort of geeky desire to understand economics and tokenomics and make this thing work. And then it sort of all came together with this sort of basic feature of sending an upvote and then getting to the top of localized charts, which is what I'd like to sort of do a little quick demo for you.
All right, fantastic. So let's maybe dive into it then. If you want to share your screen bring up the website, and I was just really gobsmacked at how powerful, not just the application for music, it just makes so much sense when you understand from a music fan perspective and a music artist perspective, and then how that the concept could then apply to so many other types of thing. Like, I don't know how many different types of thing this could become relevant to. But let's focus the conversation first of all on music, bearing in mind for the viewer that this reputation system could apply to many different things. So what are we looking at right now, Douglas?
Sure, and we'll do exactly that. We'll talk about both music and sort of any data that we can put in here. So right now what we're seeing is a bunch of dots, which each represent one piece of local music. So this is where the music was recorded. So for example, this is one of our original first posts on CXC, and he was one of our first, I guess, big stars, and he became that. He got his name bigger on the map because he was able to get these upvotes. And I actually talked to him, and he got all these upvotes by sharing a story on his Snapchat, right? So the experience here is we're all sort of fighting to get these upvotes, and these upvotes are different than on, say, Reddit, because I can actually give more than one upvote, but I can only give a certain number of upvotes per day. So the way that the site is right now, this is alpha. We have beta almost ready to go, but right now we're going through on alpha. Right now in alpha, you can vote once every 5 minutes. So if I try to vote again, it's going to let me, but it'll actually give me this link, which I can click, and it'll automatically prompt people to give me an upvote. So that's how he was able to get this many upvotes through this link. So let's talk about.
So let me jump in there then, just filling in a couple of questions for these steps. So your friend is an music artist. He comes along to the website and he submits his music to the website, and it shows up in the location that he selects, or he's uploading from, or how does it get onto the map, first of all?
So to add music, all you have to do is like find the area where it was recorded, and it is important that it's the closest city, and that's how our database sort of works. So once you're there, you just double click, and then you click again to see this pop up. And then all you have to do is share your YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, as well as a GitHub template ID if you are doing an NFT. So the pieces of data are genre, mood, and format, but you can imagine for another piece of data like video, this would be different. Or if you had some sort of commercial product, or if this was for a specialized service, you could put these sort of points of data as anything you want. And then, yeah, once it's on the map, it'll show up as a dot. And then your upvotes, which is not going to let me because I am limited to 1 per 5 minutes. But this upvotes translates into this chart system. So right now on alpha, we just have a global chart. But then in the next version, which you can check out our demo, bit.ly/CXC beta, we do have the localized charts working on our test system.
So, okay, so let's just clarify what this exactly is then. You've clicked a button somewhere and this top music has shown up. So that there's a hamburger menu thing up there.
Yep.
And this shows us, so what's in #1 position? How did this get to #1 position, basically?
I don't think it's #1. It's actually #2 now. It was #1 for a time. Oh no, now it's #4. But yeah, just getting a lot of upvotes. So for now, it's very difficult because we're fighting against all of time. So it's really hard for somebody to get into like 5. But in the next version, we're going to be doing new charts every day to make it a lot easier for people to get on a chart.
Okay, so this is one global rating list of all of the music that's in the database based on how many upvotes they've received. And to receive upvotes, so far you've expressed having, like, you've got a share link that can be shared on other social platforms. and that will bring attention based on that artist or whoever shares it. Doesn't just have to be the artist. And that traffic will come to the website, and the person can then click the button, upvote, and that will go up the rankings a little bit like a Reddit upvote system. And then you've got that ranked order of music. What I'm hearing is that with the beta version, there'll be localization. So maybe, does that mean you can pick Texas, for example, and then you get a different list of top music just in Texas?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
then the size of the bubbles, they grow bigger based on how many upvotes that music has received, is what I'm guessing. And that visually allows us to identify, like, we can explore this map of the world, and we can find music in different locations, and we can even see how popular it is at a visual glance by the size of the bubble. What about the coloring? Why are some of them yellow and purple and red and blue?
Sure. And I'm not sure if you saw, I was going through on a test version to show you kind of like the part of the locational aspect. But yeah, these colors are, first of all, the genre. So you can see that yellow is predominant. We have a lot of hip hop music on the map. And then if you zoom in a little bit further, there's also another color inside, which represents the mood.
The color inside represents the mood. The color on the outside is the music genre. So if I'm a fan of rock music that has a happy vibe, I know what assortment of coloring to look for, and I can go and explore on the global map to find rock music with a happy vibe kind of thing.
Yeah, so here I just did rock music, and it's all the red ones. And then yeah, you could go further from there and go.
And then I can
happy.
see, there you go. So then I can I can find the type of music I like, and I can visually look for what's hot and popular in different parts of the world, right? So I actually used to listen to some Russian rock music. For some reason, I really resonated. I enjoyed it. I used to go to YouTube and type some Russian rock music. I would love to be able to scan and find where in Russia these places are that has more popular. And then the idea is that it's not just, it kind of is a popularity contest, let's call it that, but it allows us to explore the genres of music that we like in the places that we like, and discover music that is new, that is not yet popular, that is up and coming, because that's going to be the smaller circles, correct?
So one of the most exciting things that we already have up and running is that NFTs on Wax are already integrated in the map. So you can find them up here under all formats, and then the dots will have an NFT attached. So whenever you click on it, you'll find this new display of information. And this is all from the blockchain, but it's also a link. So if you click it, it's going to take you to the best priced sale for this NFT. So one of the things that this really solves is it puts up additional blinders where you're not distracted by somebody selling the same NFT for more money and sort of navigating marketplaces, which are kind of complex. So you can enjoy that feature already just on cxc.world format NFT, or you can even just do /f/NFT, and it'll bring you to the NFT map as well.
Okay, so let's pause here again. Tell it to me like I'm 5, and in NFT space and combining that with music, I pretty much am 5. So how do NFTs relate to music exactly? What's the connection there? What is it an NFT of?
So we actually wrote our own NFT standard. So all of the metadata attached to our NFT are using this standard, and we suggest that other people use it as well. So this is the standard is basically a schema suggestion, and here's the data you can see. We have the audio, which links to an IPFS of an actual audio file. The video is optional. The image, you do have to have an image. You can have a collection image. And then really just all the data that you would sort of expect to find about music. And the idea of creating a standard is really just to make sure that people in the future can create good data. So a music NFT could be whatever you say it is. As long as there's music there, you can say it's a music NFT. But what we want is we want quality structured data, which actually helps the artists themselves, as well as helps future applications. So in addition to these sort of like regular things you'd expect, title, album, track, year, about, we do have credits, which is important. But also we have a few links that help the artist, which is the YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. So we're getting the artists more traditional plays, which may seem counterintuitive. There's some people who are almost purists and want everything to be, why don't you monetize the stream from IPFS? But really, like, we just want to help the artists. So we're not above sending somebody to Spotify if that's a half of a penny that they make. That's more than an IPFS stream, which doesn't get them anything. So again, I mentioned that we are forward thinking. And one way that we're doing that is we are the first, to my knowledge, the first of any blockchain standard to use a GeoJSON geotag. So this field, although it says it's just a string, we can authenticate that it's in the right format if they use our UI. And this allows any future application to take any NFT using the standard that includes this data of geotag and then put it on a map into the future, right? So your question about how does the music link with technology? What we're doing with our NFT standard is we're creating this third party, right? So we're one party because we can show your NFT. The second party would be the actual blockchain itself. But what about the third party of the actual information of what is a music NFT? And that's what we've done with our standard, and a few other projects have integrated it as well. So yeah, like we're really deep into the data side, and I hope that wasn't too much of an answer to the simple question.
So yeah, so I'll just kind of retort in simple fashion. So a music NFT is there has to be an image file, and you're also enabling connection to an IPFS stored audio file, like an MP3, and then you can also include links to other websites that store music files as well. And so a person can, I call it metadata. So there's a whole bunch of metadata about the NFT. And so someone can, and now you're showing us on Atomic Hub with the Explorer, all of that metadata is available for view. And so the image is connected to the data and it's connected to a music file, and that's a music NFT.
Exactly.
And then your platform, so let's go back to the platform. People can create, with using your standard, they can create an NFT for the music that they are publishing and sharing on CXC app, correct?
Yeah, you can create the music in whatever way. And what I like to say is, if I was speaking to an artist, I would say, go ahead and do exactly what you're doing. Make your music the same way, distribute it through your normal means. And then once you've already distributed through DistroKid or SoundCloud repos, then come to us. We'll share your links that you already have. And then if you want to go the extra step, here's this music NFT standard. And then you can really take it in whatever direction you want, become as involved as you want with your own NFT collection.
And then that NFT collection is then saleable, and you've brought up Atomic Hub. Is that like your suggested marketplace, or is it the only marketplace that it can integrate with? Tell us about Atomic Hub and how an artist who's maybe watching this video and isn't yet too familiar with how to monetize themselves with NFTs in some way, how does it help them to have these music NFTs?
Sure. So Atomic Hub is like the biggest NFT marketplace on Wax. It's also available on EOS, and our NFT standard also works on EOS as well. So what it helps you to do as an artist is to create your music NFT. So if you wanted to create a music NFT, come up to the NFT creator. And if you don't already have a collection, you hit create new collection. But if you already do, then you can select your collection. And then next thing you need to do is you got to create a schema. So schemas are the data information, and that's what we've already done for you. So this is our schema, and you can, if you Google maybe CXC music NFT standard, you'll find a list of all of this information that you need, as well as you can do it through smart contract if you don't want to sort of type everything out. So
Okay.
what?
So back on Atomic Hub, they're taking that data, and where do they enter it? Do they have to be smart contract developers, or can they just punch it in a form field?
Yeah, so this is the form field. So you got to do the schema and then the template. That's the only thing you got to remember, is to do the schema first. So all you have to do is fill in all of these fields to make it look like all of these fields here in our standard if you didn't want to use the smart contract. So you wouldn't need to touch anything. And then you hit create. And once you did, then you'll have a new schema here, like this music NFTs. And then the next thing you would do is you would create a template for each individual song. And you would just select that schema. So here, and then you create this new template. So this is where you actually put in the music file, you actually put in the image and everything like that. And then you'll finally, after you do this, you'll finally get back a ID, which you'll then use. Oops, you'll get an NFT ID. Sorry, let me go on the site. And then you share that right here. So once you have your template ID through going through that process, bring it into CXC, put it right there, and then our system will handle everything else.
Okay, great. And that handling everything else is building this NFT file, and then what does an artist do once they've had the NFT created? Do they go back to CXC World, or do they go to social media and promote a link for the NFT? What happens next?
Sure. I think I missed a part of your first question, which was, does CXC only work with Atomic Hub, or how does that work? So you're actually creating the NFT through the Atomic Assets standard on the Wax blockchain. And then everybody else is basically reading from the same blockchain and the same information. So in our case, we're not storing the NFT. All we're doing is looking for these specific templates which exist on the Atomic Assets contract under the Atomic Assets standard. So once you have this NFT, you can sell it on Atomic Hub, you can sell it on NFT Hive, you can sell it, or you can create your own NFT DeFi solution on Wax DAO for your music NFT collection. But basically, you have just an NFT you can do anything else with on the Wax blockchain that you would with any other NFT.
Gotcha. And are music artists actually making some cash out of this NFT music shindig, or is it still so early and new that we're still like, are music artists engaging with this? Is it being useful for them? Is there revenue flowing through this kind of approach to promoting music?
Sure. I think that I don't really have a solid number, but a good amount of the music NFT artists on Wax are either using standard or using something that was inspired by it. So there's probably 4 projects I could mention. Sublime Sounds, they did not use our standard, but they sort of were influenced by it. Same with Kate, we actually were developing standard at the same time, so we bounced off each other. Also Munster Munster Vision is the name of the NFT artist. He's a very big proponent of our standard and really helps to get even more people on the standard. Yeah, and then there's another guy I want to shout out, JRG, who's also a wax music artist, but I'm not sure if he's using our standard or not, but I think he is. So people are using it, and it's helping. People are forking the repo and things like that.
Fantastic. So let's move forward. We've spoken about music. What other kinds of application do you see that CXC can be applied to over time?
Okay, so all right, sorry, I'm gonna go back to the map. Yeah, like our biggest ones that we want to start out with are like photos, including any sort of 2D art. We want to do videos, which could be anything from like YouTube to TikTok, depending on different formats. But what I'm really passionate to move into is like solutions, where you sort of crowdsource these solutions to sort of common human problems like filtering water, permacultures, things like that. As well as like you could do it for reviews. People say that a lot, although I don't really see the I think that need is served. But basically anything that's digital content. One thing is NFTs. Like we could make a map that's just any sort of type of NFT, and then the format that you choose is, I want a music NFT or an art NFT or a DeFi NFT or something like that. So anything digital.
All right, let's unpack that a little bit. You mentioned solutions. I guess you don't mean liquid solutions, but let's just shelf salute what we mean by solutions for a second. You mentioned TikTok and other platforms like that. So I could search for a type of TikTok video such as ice bucket challenge, right? Or twerking, or whatever I'm into that I like TikTok for. And I
Ice bucket twerking.
ice bucket twerking, there you go. And then and that will give me a set of bubbles around the world, so I can go and see how they ice bucket twerk in different places around the world. For me, that's astonishing, right? The people have such particular interests, and the way that these social media algorithms work, they are spoon feeding you what they can monetize and profit out of your addiction. What you're doing is giving us control to be able to choose exactly the type of content that we want to experience and absorb and explore and understand at a much more organized, sophisticated, comprehensive level. Again, I think it's astonishing. So let's go to the solution stuff. What did you mean by solutions?
Yeah, well, first of all, you said that so beautifully, and you totally get it. Like we're removing the shadow from shadow algorithms and empowering people to look at their next door neighbor and support them instead of whoever TikTok throws on their feed. So with solutions, we are not talking about aqueous chemicals. We are talking about solutions to problems. And the idea there, as well as like it can also be a more broader like ideas app, but the idea would be to open source solutions, right? That app or that idea is very based upon open source, where we focus one at a time on different solutions or different categories of solutions. You could even think of it similar as to like a grant round, except for it's happening all the time. And then, instead of the genre, you have these different categories of solutions. So once you have a category, you can explore how different people throughout the world are finding a solution for that. For example, trash, right? Trash is something that different cultures solve different ways. And we almost like don't even understand how other cultures do that. Like Singapore has some of the most advanced trash burning services in the world, and they created a whole island out of the ash that they got of that because they were able to do it so efficiently. Yet, if you look at a different part of the world, we would just assume that burning trash is, putting a bunch of stuff into the atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. So what we want to do is just show people that the solutions are simple, right? The problems are complex, but solutions are simple. And alongside with algorithms feeding us what they can monetize, our system is feeding us solutions which can be monetized. We don't need to fund the latest startup to track food around the world. We need to plant a garden in our front yard. And I think that we're taken so far away from these simple solutions that an idea like we're applying now to music could work beautifully to make a better world.
Again, like, just pretty gobsmacked. And it's true. I'm having to learn all sorts of things now. I've moved into a kind of an agricultural property recently, from composting and all sorts of different things. And if I could, I go to YouTube. It's like my default. I go and try and learn something on YouTube, and I see what videos I can find. But if I could find, like, type a string that actually, if the search function works better on YouTube, then maybe that would be helpful. But a map with those categorizations and the tags for the data that allows me that granularity of searching around the world in my area, which is Yucatan, Mexico, for how they do things here, and I can go and have a look at how that compares in other places. Again, it's just such a comprehensive way of learning, not just connecting with different information. And then from an investment perspective, we could leave it at a simple case of advertising revenue. I don't know how you feel about having advertising revenue, but I'm not against it. Traditionally, I'm a marketer. I have no problem with advertising. It's part of how we discover new stuff. If I can use your application to have a granular level of filtering data, so I'm looking at content I'm interested in, I will be more than happy to receive targeted adverts that are selling me on products for me to consider based on what I'm exploring, I'm searching for. And so with all of those various applications that you've got available, the amount of ad revenue that could come from this platform is astronomical, and that's just one possible revenue stream opportunity. Do you want to, like, what's your input to that, and do you have any other ideas for revenue, or does that make sense for you as a potential revenue stream?
Sure. Yeah, like my eyes get big too when I think of the opportunities. And I think it's important to look at what's worked in the past. Right now, about 50% of all digital advertising is Facebook, right? Those two combined. And Google back in the day, they were sort of the first people to have targeted advertisement. You can pick exactly who you want to be your audience. And then if you want a certain audience, you got to pay more, right? Because people are bidding more for these particular search terms and things. And then what Facebook did was they took it a step further, and they created a whole, like the whole app is basically one way to look at it. It's just to find out what you like so that they can sell you what you like. And they became the better option than Google because they had that more information, so that the advertisers could get exactly to that person who would buy their product. Well, we're similar to an advertising solution, but we're different in a big way, in that what we really want from our ads or our ad economy isn't this like one-to-one transactional exchange where, okay, you give me 5 cents, I'm going to give you one piece of ad, one click or whatever. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, once you give us your money for an ad, which you will have to do, and you will do that through buying our token blocks on an exchange and then using it to vote on a piece of content. So once you do that, it's not a transaction that you just get back that additional exposure. What happens is you are now higher up on the app. So now you have the opportunity to attract all this organic exposure, right? So On Facebook, the ads that sort of succeed are the ones that scale and basically make back more money so that the person can sort of increase their ad budget and scale it up that way. What we want to see is sort of the same thing, but instead of sort of touching fiat, we allow you to buy this advertising token, spend it on the platform. But once you get that exposure, you're actually going to be getting back the same advertising token that you just bought. So you then have the option of, hey, I got all this organic support, all this organic eyes, which then benefited me financially. I can, number one, sell back the advertising tokens on the open market, and theoretically, like, you can run an advertising campaign that literally pays you back your original budget plus whatever the return on investment was. Or they can take that and use it immediately to boost themselves even higher. And you got to remember the daily chart aspect, which is going to be huge in beta. Like, we're going to be publishing these daily charts on our blogs, getting these sort of eyeballs and building up this hype. And what you can do is you can pay for 1 day of advertisement, get back the token, say, okay, I made number 3 on the chart yesterday. I'm going to save up all my tokens that I made and I'm going to spend it again. And then the next day you can try to get to a higher position and then build up this sort of organic exposure through the platform that way, which pays for itself.
All right, so now for our viewers, having gone through this interview, I'm going to call it a part 1. Maybe it's a part 1 out of 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and you can see the challenge for CXC World being able to distill what Douglas is juggling into a 7-minute investor pitch deck, because there's just so many nuances that really need to be understood. So, as we bring this in for a landing for today, Douglas, what are your next steps? You've introduced us to a beta. When is that coming out? What's beyond the beta? What would be the next steps for developing the platform and the exposure and getting people to actually start making use, or more people? Because I think, like, you look at things and you think, wow, this could be a popular platform. And I look at CXC World and I think this could be a very popular platform. So what are your key milestones and your challenge, your kind of next step challenges?
Sure. Like you said, our big next step is beta. And we've got our contracts in development. They're on my GitHub if anybody wants to help. But alongside beta, we're basically launching the full tokenomics system. So that's what's coming out. The daily charts are coming out. We're going to start publishing them on our Hive. And we have tested that. If you want to see how it's going to look, you can find our Hive blog. But really, it's like the jump from alpha to beta is going to shake everything up. And depending on how well it's used, we're going to have to adjust our strategy just to optimize, to make sure things are working and make sure that everything is scalable to move forward. But if you want to check out what we've already done and what we have planned, this is our part of our Purple Explainer, which is our roadmap. And you can see, read more about the project, as well as sort of preview these chart systems that we have as well.
Fantastic. I've got a bit better of an appreciation of the project from this conversation, even though I've been looking at it for the past weeks. And it's clearly it's a challenge. I can ask you, Douglas, you're a sophisticated guy, and being able to dumb it down for some of us, or investors included, and end users and musicians, I know it's a tremendous challenge, just the communication part in itself. But having the application, very excited to see the beta release, and then seeing how that gets promoted, more users starting to engage with it, getting that voting going. The localization, I think, is going to be a good win, because then people can really focus into the area that they're interested in. It adds so much more dimension to the usability of the platform. And maybe let's leave it there. Let's consider this a part 1 interview. I can look forward to another one in weeks or months, as it happens to be. Any parting words, any last thoughts, and anything that I didn't ask about that you'd like to share?
Sure. I mean, I just want to share some words like to do what you want to do in life, and people will help you out. Like all this that I'm doing is just to help musicians out. And one thing that I found every time I make myself vulnerable by sharing either my art or my ideas or something like, the world sort of molds around to help. So I would encourage everybody out there, no matter what you're creating, to understand that you are loved and you are in a world that's very helpful. And I hope that CXC can be a tool that does help you along that journey, and that we can together explore new and creative ways. And very last thing, if you do want to walk along with us, we have a community as sort of like a DAO. We're still sort of figuring out how it works, but we've met about like 5 times. And you can get there. It's just lu.ma/CXC. And then make sure you sign up. There'll be a sign up with email button there, and you'll get an email when our community is meeting. And we have like video chats, as well as we're going to be rewarding contributors in purple. So I hope to see you there if you're passionate about what I've shared, and passionate about creation. Thank you for your time and for this spotlight.
Wonderful. Thank you, Douglas. Catch you on the next call.
All right. Peace.